This is US Andersen, and I'm going to speak about drugs and enlightenment. Okay, so drugs, meaning ecstasy and acid, for instance, in that lines, the essence of that which the drugs consist of is actually quite harmless. Harmless from the perspective of what I found with drugs is that it actually opens up yourself to a certain extent. It can open yourself up to yourself in two ways. Firstly, it reveals who you are in terms of, and have become as a mind consciousness system, so you start hallucinating in terms of seeing images, etc., etc., etc. But those images have become part of the self-defined realm within you of who you are as a mind consciousness system. And then you have another one where your inhibitions start coming forth. But the inhibitions are actually more like your self-expression that you're suppressing. So, in terms of drugs in itself and the essence thereof, it's able to be quite supportive. If you understand how to use it responsibly in terms of supporting you within your process. I'm not going to focus on the methods of how to, and I'm not going to say or suggest that you do that at all. All I'm saying to you is I'm revealing the nature of drugs and enlightenment that I discovered. That's it. If you're not in an environment of support and among beings that understand how this exactly works, you're able to fuck with yourself extensively. And that's what happens when you use drugs irresponsibly, which becomes to the abuse of drugs through the addiction of drugs. The abuse and addiction of drugs come when you do not understand the experience of yourself when you use drugs. Children, young people use drugs so irresponsibly because they're looking and yearning for, as Elvis has said before, that experience of freedom. They're looking for freedom. Because when they use drugs, they experience a sense of freedom within themselves that they are not able to express or find or realize anywhere else. They're not realizing that when they're on these drugs, what they're experiencing is actually themselves. It doesn't matter in what form or what expression they may experience themselves when using substances such as drugs like ecstasy and acid. So why am I linking drugs to enlightenment? I'm meaning enlightenment from the perspective of realizing that when you take drugs, whatever you're experiencing while you're on it, it's actually you. But what's happened is because of the abuse of drugs and the addiction of drugs, it caused a separation. So human beings believe that when they use drugs, that which they experience are because of the drugs they use. It's not. What these type of drugs do, these substances do, is it actually releases the mind consciousness systems within you for a moment. And it kind of opens you up to you in its many different various forms and aspects. But though when this chemical wears off, your mind consciousness systems return, and then human beings become depressive because it returns and they don't understand why. They cannot just stay as what they are while they're on drugs. The reason for that is the following. Firstly, you don't understand what the drugs and the chemicals thereof effects are of the mind consciousness systems within you. It opens you up to you. So all and everything that you experience while you're on these drugs is actually you coming forth. Secondly, what you don't understand is that when these drugs wear off, the mind consciousness systems will return tenfold and multiply unless you understand that and actually have applied and worked and effectively assisted yourself while on these drugs in terms of supporting yourself in your self-expression, i.e. applying forgiveness, doing corrective action, sorting out whatever you're experiencing and seeing while you're on these drugs. If you don't, the systems within you will compound tenfold. And that's why every time you have to use more and more and more of these drugs, which is called addiction, but it's not really. What's happening is that you are becoming addicted to the experience of yourself. You don't understand when you're on these drugs. You don't understand the experience, and therefore not understanding it, you thrive for it more, because you've separated the experience from yourself. And what happens is the mind consciousness systems require more drugs, like ecstasy and acid, for instance, to be able to open yourself up and release the mind consciousness systems within. And that's inevitably why human beings die when they overdose. Because what happens is, upon the comeback from the rush, the mind consciousness systems manifest each time you use the drugs tenfold. And they manifest within your human physical body, and that's when you start experiencing seizures, etc. Because your human physical body can't handle the amplifying of the manifestation of the mind consciousness systems within you enough. So it kind of short circuits within your human physical body, and that's when you die. So human beings are using drugs to that extent. Hear me, you will die. That is an absolute certainty. Why? Because you're amplifying mind consciousness systems too fast within yourself for your human physical body to handle, and your organs will start malfunctioning very quickly. Remember that the addiction you're experiencing is actually become the addiction of you, because it's got nothing to do with your human physical body or even the mind consciousness systems within. It's got to do with you, because you're so thriving for that experience of expression or freedom while on that rush. What is a rush? A rush is an experience of quantum space and time. When you start moving through quantum space and time here on Earth, that's what a rush is. A rush opens up yourself interdimensionally. So human beings who use drugs, I suppose I suggest you rather stop for a moment. Stop. It's not necessary. Again, it seems so simple, but apply forgiveness, apply corrective action, because I'm sure you don't want to die. Thank you very much. This is U.S. Andersen.